So thank you all for joining us today. Today's webinar, Data Tools for Library Groups and States, is hosted jointly by the Public Library Association, PLA, and the Association for College and Research Libraries, ACRL, and we'll be focusing on how our data tools can be used by your library groups, consortia, and/or state agencies. So all of the PLA and ACRL staff from the data teams are in the webinar today. As I said, I am Gina Parsons-Diamond, the Program Manager, Data and Research for ACRL. I'm joined by Sarah Girk, who's the Program Manager for Data and Research at the PLA, and Katina Jones, who is the Program Manager for Evaluation and Assessment, also at PLA. Our colleagues Mahogany Meeks and Brian Lim are also here, and they'll be monitoring the chat for questions and popping some helpful links in. So together, the five of us support all of PLA and ACRL's data initiatives, particularly Project Outcome and Benchmark, which are the tools we'll be talking about today. So today's webinar is geared towards library groups, which include consortia, regional systems, and state library administrative agencies. Whether you are a staff member at one of those organizations or a member leader within the organization, the goal of today's webinar is to help you understand the nature of these data tools. We'll describe how group accounts can benefit your organization and the different levels of access that are available. Just one additional note. What is available to the state library administrative agencies within Project Outcome and Benchmark for public libraries is a little bit different than other group users in the data tools. We'll have a couple special callouts for state library users in the presentation. So if that's not you, just go ahead and ignore that. So the two tools we'll be discussing today are Project Outcome and Benchmark. For each, we'll give a brief introduction to the tool, what it does and why, and then we'll describe the features or access for group users. There are both free and paid features available, so we'll make sure to address what you get for free, and what additional features are available at a cost. We'll be sure to leave time for questions at the end, but please put your questions in the chat as we go along. And again, as I said earlier, this webinar is being recorded, and you'll also receive the slides with the recording after this presentation. So we're going to get started with Project Outcome. So what is Project Outcome? It's a free toolkit, which is available to all public and academic libraries worldwide, designed to help libraries understand and share the impact of essential library services and programs. And we do this by providing simple surveys and an easy-to-use process for measuring and analyzing outcomes. Project Outcome also provides libraries with the resources and training support needed to apply their results and confidently advocate for their library's future. And I just want to take a moment to emphasize that the Project Outcome toolkits are for everyone, not only people with assessment in their job titles or descriptions. The toolkits were explicitly designed to relate to the widest possible range of library services and roles, both at public and academic libraries. So the Project Outcome Toolkit is really designed to make it easier for libraries to engage in outcome measurement. We provide quick and simple surveys that can be used straight out of the box, or you can customize them with additional questions. We also provide an easy-to-use survey management portal to collect and enter your survey data. And then the ready-made reports that the system generates for you, as well as customizable data reports that you can create yourself, makes it really easy to visualize and share your results. Speaking of results, we also provide an interactive data dashboard with benchmarks for both public and academic libraries. Also included in the toolkit are all the resources and training materials that we have created to help libraries engage in the outcome measurement process. And we can always add more resources. So if you feel like something is missing, please don't hesitate to reach out and we can add what you need. And finally, we also provide a peer discussion board, which is where you can ask questions and share examples of what works or doesn't work for your institution or library. This combination of the ready-to-go surveys and easy-to-use tools can really help library staff save time and energy in planning their data collection, which leaves more time for decision-making and advocacy once the results are in. So in addition, the group users would get access to data from member libraries and the ability to create survey templates and reports for the group's initiatives. There is a cost associated with group setup depending on the size of your group, and we'll cover the group account features more in detail in the next section of this presentation. For now, I want to take a moment to talk about measuring impact, because there are many ways that libraries can measure impact, and you already may be doing some of these at your library. Measuring outcomes doesn't mean you stop doing these other types of assessments. Outcomes are simply one piece of the puzzle. Different types of impact measurement can help you understand different questions that you may be seeking to answer. So a needs assessment will help you answer the question, what does our community need? Patron satisfaction surveys can help you answer the question, what should we do better? And output surveys or assessment help answer the question, how much did we do? So adding outcome data to your impact story can help you drive decision-making and strategic planning. This is where Project Outcome comes in. Project Outcomes simple standard surveys were developed by and for the library field. Since public and academic libraries offer different types of programs and services to different audiences, the survey topics available differ based on your library type. And of course, how you use them will differ as well. Public libraries have 8 survey topics available to them, which are digital learning, early childhood literacy, health, summer reading, economic development, job skills, civic or community engagement, and education and lifelong learning. And academic libraries have 7 survey topics available to them: instruction, research, events and programs, teaching support, library technology, digital and special collections, and space. And each of these survey topics comes in 2 types, immediate and follow-up. You can preview all the actual survey questions in the resources, so you can decide exactly which one will get you the type of data you need. Project Outcome focuses on helping libraries measure these 4 key learning outcomes for patrons: knowledge, which is their learning; confidence, which is changing their attitude; application or behavior change, which is using new skills; and awareness, which is knowing more about how the library can help or where to find other resources. Outcomes help us answer the question, what good did we do? Each survey has quantitative questions that get at these 4 key outcomes. On the immediate surveys, these questions follow a Likert scale format from strongly disagree to strongly agree. On the follow-up surveys, they're primarily following a yes-no format. And then each survey also contains 2 open-ended questions that help you get the most out of your patrons' feedback. And those 2 questions are, what did they like most about the program? And what can the library do to improve? These open-ended questions are invaluable to libraries. This is where you can gain specific insight into how to help your patrons and qualitative evidence to demonstrate your value in the community. One thing we see repeatedly is library patrons asking for more. More hotspots for checkout, more study spaces, more puppets during story time, more of anything. Getting repeated comments like that can help the library make the case for additional time or resources needed. And the quantitative results can help support that case by showing that what the library is already doing makes a difference. So why use Project Outcome? We know it's not the only assessment tool available to you, but it does have some distinct advantages. We know that short and simple surveys means libraries get higher response rates because people don't like completing long surveys. Sometimes it's necessary, but for this kind of day-to-day evaluation, having a quick and easy way of gathering feedback is helpful. These surveys were created by and for the library field. They've been tested and validated so you can have confidence in the results. Also, the standardized surveys and outcome measurements mean that you can easily track progress and also use benchmarks to make comparisons to your peers. The ready-to-go reports and dashboards do a lot of the hard work for you. These data visualizations will give you results that you can easily share with leadership or other stakeholders. The reports and dashboards also provide an immediate snapshot of how a program went. This allows you to take that feedback and make improvements immediately. And the open-ended comments are so valuable. They can provide specific information of where patrons would appreciate support and stories of what they value that can support advocacy and reporting. And so overall, the project outcome tools are designed to be easy to use, which reduces the burden of evaluation on staff. Libraries can focus more on making an impact and less on agonizing over survey questions or results on spreadsheets. And we encourage users in Project Outcome to work at their own pace and comfort level. Those new to outcome measurement can start small, see how it goes, and learn and grow from there. As you become more comfortable with the tool, there are many ways to dig deeper and customize surveys and reports. And as I've been saying, Project Outcome has numerous resources available to all users, which cover all aspects of the outcome measurement process. Since we didn't have time to go through all the features of the Project Outcome Toolkits in detail today, please make sure to check out the tutorials as a reference. You can also preview all the surveys in the resources section to choose the one that best fits your needs. Many other resources cover all aspects of the outcome measurement process that can help you learn more. These include links to recordings of past webinars. We offer Project Outcome 101 webinars regularly, and those are a great way to get a high-level introduction to the tool. And my colleague Brian has shared in the chat the recording of our most recent 101 program. So now that I've given you a quick overview of the tool, I'm going to pass it to my colleague Katina, who's going to discuss the Project Outcome group accounts in more detail.
Thanks, Gina. Thank you for that brief introduction on what Project Outcome is and how libraries use it and why libraries should use outcome measurement. So as Gina said, I'm going to walk you through a bit more detail about group accounts in Project Outcome, and you're going to have to listen to me say next slide. So I appreciate you putting up with that. So what do we mean when we say groups? It's probably, Gina mentioned it earlier, but it's probably good to just make sure that we're clear. Groups include state library administrative agencies, library consortia or associations, and regional library systems. Group accounts offer a way for your group to create and administer project outcome surveys on behalf of your members. So what Gina described, you can create actual surveys yourself as the group administrators, or you can use survey templates to collect data related to initiatives. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. To view data from your member libraries is another option that's available to you as a group account administrator, and to create reports based on survey results from your member libraries. So, and there's a couple of points on each of the next couple of slides about state library agencies, and I'll jump into that as we go through it. But again, having all the things that Gina mentioned, the benefits of Project Outcome, as a group account administrator, you have access to those, but also then you can then see the data that's being collected by your group members. So next slide. So group account, there are two types of Project Outcome group accounts that offer slightly different levels of access. So with template only access, the group admins can create surveys, create templates, and produce reports. However, the group admin only has access to the data that is collected through the templates or surveys that they create for their group members. Full access accounts, on the other hand, can, same thing, create surveys, templates, and reports, but have access to all of the project outcome data from the group's members. So if you were to say, create a template for digital literacy, and your members have been using, summer reading or job skills, the full access accounts allow you to be able to see the results from all of their surveys. So for consortia or other groups, if you want to see this type of account, you will want to have permission from your, to see all this data from your members. And as I mentioned, or what I should say here is that state accounts in Project Outcome for public libraries have full access accounts. So the state library agency accounts are full access. So group admins can create survey templates that they publish to their member institutions or libraries. The libraries then can use those templates to collect data tied to a specific initiative or to a grant program. These templates then are useful for grants and other initiatives involving multiple libraries. For example, PLA's Digital Learn initiative. With that initiative, the libraries that received the incentive used a project outcome digital learning template set up by the group administrator, which happened to be me, to collect patron feedback on the programs they delivered with the incentive funding. So the group administrator, I am able to use those data to evaluate the impact of the incentive program as a whole and to see the difference that it's making for library patrons. So the flow chart here on this slide, sort of gives you that idea. When you as a group administrator create a template, you assign it to the libraries you're sending it to, and then it gets published to your members. And then those libraries then are able to surveys from that, distribute to the patrons, and then report that data back into the system. And then Project Outcome stores and aggregates that data that's tied to those templates. So again, another level of how we're trying to reduce the burden on this data collection, storing all these data, especially when there's multiple libraries involved. So next slide, please. So what you're looking at here on this slide is that first step in creating a survey or a template. So as far as surveys go, as a group admin, you can create surveys on behalf of specific libraries or for the group or your state. For example, if you are a part of a consortia that's offering a program that's touring your libraries, right? The consortia could create a survey and provide it to their members to share with their program participants. So in other words, you're creating a survey, it goes directly to the people participating. When it comes to templates, you can create a template and put it under a certain initiative, whether it's digital learning like we did with the AT&T incentive, or there's another, maybe you've done story time training or some other type of initiative that you need to collect data from, from patrons or students based on that initiative. And once you create that template, then your libraries can create multiple surveys based on that template, and it will be tied to the initiative. And so, like I said, on this screen, you can see that during step 1 of the process, you can see your list of destination libraries. So when we create an account for you, then the libraries that are within your group would then be listed here as the source of where you could publish the survey or the template. Next slide, please. So group admins can see and aggregate all data from their member institutions depending on their access type. This Venn diagram helps to show the relationship between a single survey at a single institution or a library, all the way to having those data available at the initiative, and then being able to see the aggregate of the outcome data. But being able to view your group's data is not all that you can do within Project Outcome. Report creation and project outcome allows users to share their individual survey or initiative data by survey topic. Group users have the same opportunity to customize reports with open-ended comments, additional text, or saved images from the project outcome data dashboards. As Gina mentioned earlier, you can learn more about project outcome data dashboards and reporting features from our Project Outcome 101 webinar, as well as through the toolkit's extensive resources. So when you log in, when you create an account, if you don't have one already, the resources are available to everyone who has a Project Outcome account. And so again, it is, sorry, I got distracted by the question in the chat, but I've got a couple more slides to share with you. But again, Gina talked in general about what libraries can do individually, reporting being one of them, to be able to share it with stakeholders. At the group admin level, you can also create these types of reports. So let's talk a little bit now about the fees for groups. So as Gina mentioned in the beginning, Project Outcome is a free toolkit available to individual, public, and academic libraries worldwide. State library agencies have free full access accounts in Project Outcome for public libraries. And then library-based groups, consortia, or associations and regional library systems pay a fee for group accounts based on the size of their group. So for instance, the cost for academic library groups accounts begin at $750 for up to 15 libraries, and then it goes up based on the size of the group. So what's included in the fee? There's the setting up the account in Project Outcome, which I showed in the previous slide. You saw you'd be able to have access to the libraries in your group to be able to publish surveys to them. There's a custom 1-hour training webinar available for group admins and members. So again, we're not just throwing you to the wills of learning how to do this on your own. We do provide a webinar for the administrators and the group members. And then there's technical support available for your group users. For additional information about creating group accounts, visit the link on the screen for academic libraries, which is being dropped in the chat. And for public libraries, give us an email at info@projectoutcome.org. And finally, both PLA and ACRL offer 1-hour webinars and half-day in-person training workshops for library staff and administrators about outcome measurement and about the Project Outcome Toolkit. So what Gina shared with you at the beginning of the webinar is expanded, right? And we can do a full hour or a half-day in-person training on that. So again, it's the idea of if you feel like this is something even that your members that you'd want to have in addition to a group account or instead of a group account, that your member libraries would be able to understand outcome measurement and start the process there, then again, PLA and ACRL offer training opportunities. And so those links have also been dropped in the chat. And the PLA training opportunities page is, once you log in, you'll be able to access that link. So PLA staff provided a project outcome training for library directors and state library staff in Utah back in September. The Utah State Library intends to put this training to work to evaluate their grant programs and better support public libraries across the state. Heidi, Utah State Data Coordinator, shared the quote that you can see on the screen. And she said, the Utah State Library intends to tailor the project outcome surveys to align with the specific objectives of each grant we administer. The ability to develop customized questions that directly address the intended outcomes and impact areas outlined in the grant proposals will be especially useful. By incorporating project outcomes strategically into our evaluation process, the Utah State Library will not only be able to measure impact effectively, but also use the data to enhance programmatic success and secure continued support from grantors. So project outcome data is not just collecting data, but it's available to you to use in your advocacy efforts for you as a group, for the initiatives that you're providing for your members, but also as you are learning more about what good did you do with the folks that are using your libraries. So we are about to transition here to questions. I think I saw a couple come up in the chat, but if you have questions, this is a good point for us to stop and answer any questions about project outcome, about group accounts and project outcome before we start to talk about benchmark.
So Katina, there's one question that Sarah answered in the chat, but I think it would be useful to reiterate in the recording. So Juliana asked, do created templates become public?
So the template itself is not public, but the surveys that are created from that your libraries would then be able to create surveys that they would then use with their patrons from the template. So
the template is only available to the libraries or institutions in your group.
correct. Thank you. I should have looked at Sarah's answer, but yes. Yes, that is right. Any other questions? Okay, well, I will be monitoring the chat if anything else comes up, but I'm going to transition over to Sarah to talk to you about Benchmark.
Thank you, Katina and Gina. Dealing with a little bit of background noise here. Sorry, bad timing. Okay, apologies. So let's move on to talking about Benchmark. So project outcome, Gina and Katina talked about, has been around in the library field for a while. It started in 2015 for public libraries and in 2019 for academic libraries. Benchmark Library Metrics and Trends is our newer data tool. It launched just 2 years ago in October of 2021. So it's a little bit newer to the field. Benchmark is available at librarybenchmark.org. Like Project Outcome now, it is a joint project that's managed kind of in tandem by PLA and ACRL, the team we have on the webinar here today. Depending on library type, the data that you get access to does differ a little bit, but in other regards, the functionality of the tool is very similar. So Benchmark is the platform where libraries go to participate in PLA and ACRL surveys, both of which are currently open. PLA's 2023 survey closes at the end of this week. And Benchmark pulls together data from those surveys and other sources, allowing libraries to make effective, tailored peer comparisons. There are interactive filters, visualizations, and reporting tools to help libraries find the evidence they need to inform their planning and advocacy work. So the group accounts, which we are focusing on today, primarily are a means of facilitating access for the group's member libraries at a discounted bulk rate. There are some additional features available to group administrators, which I'll also cover in the next few slides. So Benchmark offers both free and subscriber levels of access. All public and academic libraries have free access that allows them to complete open surveys, view resources, and see some selected metrics. A subscription offers upgraded interactive features, including the ability to create custom peer groups and a full suite of data dashboards and reporting tools. So the last 3 items on this list here might only look like 3 things, but there's really a lot of value in these features. Just to be upfront, so for public libraries, subscriptions are on an annual basis. An independent single library subscription for a public library is $400 a year. For academic libraries, an independent subscription is $600 a year. Discounts are available for ALA organizational members and for libraries that participate in our annual surveys. A group subscription gives the group's member libraries or institutions access to all of these subscriber features, with the advantage of bulk pricing, as I mentioned. I will come back to this in a little bit more detail, but just at a basic level, group subscriptions are $3,000 per year for up to 10 libraries and $200 for each additional library. And discounts are also available for groups that are ALA organizational members as well. So first, I want to address the purpose behind Benchmark and what these subscriber features offer, and then I'll get into a little bit more detail of what the groups can take advantage of as well. So Benchmark provides data and resources that can help libraries discover insights about their performance, demonstrate value to stakeholders, and increase their impact. By providing these tools, PLA and ACRL want to empower libraries to make better use of data for planning and advocacy. So how do we do that? Benchmarking is where the name for the tool comes from, as you can imagine, and broadly defined, it's the process of comparing a library or organization's performance with that of its peers to determine areas for improvement. It can also allow libraries to highlight areas where they are doing exceptionally well. So benchmarking can inform strategic planning and support everyday decision-making in libraries. Benchmark as a tool is designed to facilitate these peer comparisons so that all libraries can access the wealth of data about their own performance and that of their peers. A library can see at a glance how its performance compares to its peers, and this alone can help a library make data-informed decisions about how to allocate resources or plan changes to services. So the goal of benchmarking in this case is not competition, but field-wide improvement. So the visualizations within the benchmark dashboards have been designed to facilitate this process. Many charts look like these examples on the screen. So the top chart here is a public library example showing the library's data point in purple, peer comparisons in the teal line, and the national or all data in gray. And you can see that by hovering over the chart there, you can get tooltips that tell you exactly what the underlying data is. The bottom chart is an academic library example showing how the library in this case compares to the average and median for its selected peers. So Benchmark offers user-friendly visualizations and reporting tools, giving libraries access to data drawn from multiple sources. For public libraries, that data includes PLA's annual topical surveys from 2020 onwards, the IMLS Public Library Survey, which are the annual output measures that libraries report to their state that get rolled up at the federal level, the Census Bureau's American Community Survey showing data for the communities that the library serves, and the Historic Public Library Data Service, or PLDS dataset, which was PLA's annual surveys from 2002 to 2019. For academic libraries, the data included is ACRL's Trends and Statistics annual survey going all the way back to 1998, as well as key institution metrics drawn from the Integrated Post-Secondary Education Data System, known as IPEDS. So an advantage of using Benchmark is that all of this data is connected. It's automatically tied to the library's account when they log in, and it's all in one place conveniently there for them to use. So what's included in all of that data? The charts and visualizations available in Benchmark cover a range of topic areas within the dashboards. So non-subscribers, just users with a free level of access, see only a summary page containing selected visualizations. Subscribers who have access to the full data dashboards get all of these topics as tabs or pages within the dashboards, and they can navigate between them. So for public libraries, the topics include programs and services, collections and circulation, technology, staff, facilities, funding, and community. For academic libraries, the nature of the data is pretty similar, but the topics are named to align with the standards for libraries in higher education, including effectiveness, education, discovery, collections, space, leadership, and personnel. So the example shown here is from the ACRL personnel tabs. You can see different types of staff, counts, and percentage of staff by each type, those types of metrics. So over time, we do add more charts and data. It's updated annually as the new data becomes available, and that includes new data and charts from PLA and ACRL's annual surveys, which are typically added or updated each summer once we have a chance to clean up the data after the survey closes. Another great advantage of Benchmark is being able to explore and interact with this data to help users find the information they need. And filters are really the best way to do that. So there are several key filters for public and academic libraries. Public library filters, which are shown in the screenshot on the slide, those include key library characteristics such as locale, region, population, and legal basis, as well as community characteristics, including the percent of people of color and percent college educated in the community the library serves based on census data. The academic library filters include basic and detailed Carnegie classification, country, state or province, and peer group. So in the screenshot, you can see the little interactive bit showing how you can apply these filters, and that changes the data in the chart. So in this case, the user is comparing their library, which is a public library in California, to a custom peer group of other California libraries, and then filtering the national or all data to compare themselves to city libraries in the far west region. The charts adjust accordingly. So I've mentioned custom peer comparisons. That's another subscriber feature of the tool. Subscribers can create custom peer groups for these comparisons. So the tool provides some filters that they can use to select libraries based on key characteristics, or if you have a list of libraries that you commonly use for these types of comparisons, you can select individual libraries by name and add them to a new custom peer group. Once that group is created, it can then be selected in the peer group filter on the data dashboards, as was shown in the previous slide. So pretty simple process. It's essentially a way of saving your parameters for peer comparisons for future reference. So this is just a very brief overview of the benchmark features for library subscribers. More information about benchmark is available on the PLA and ACRL websites. PLA has also developed a series of video tutorials, and we recently hosted a free Benchmark 101 webinar. So both of those are available to view at the links on the slide, and that I think Brian has probably shared in the chat as well. So again, those are an overview of all the subscriber features for libraries that have a subscription, whether that subscription is purchased individually or whether it's part of a group subscription. What I want to get into next is what you would get also within a group account. So this sort of admin level account, kind of like Project Outcome, there's a separate account for the group administrators. So with a group subscription, that's again a way of providing access to all those subscriber features in Benchmark for your member libraries. And it's also a way of getting some additional features as a group administrator. So group administrators get this special admin account with additional features. Those include the ability to track and export member responses to PLA and ACRL's annual surveys, and the ability to manage library information for their member libraries. We are providing those features with free access. So state libraries, for example, for PLA have already been set up with those free group accounts that allows them to track their survey responses for libraries within their state. We can set that up for other groups that are interested in that as well. And I'm going to talk a little bit about more about what that looks like. With a subscription, the group's member libraries and the administrator get access to all of the standard subscriber features that I've been describing, including the data dashboards, reports, and custom peer groups. So the cost is $3,000 per year for up to 10 member libraries and $200 per each additional library. If the group is an ALA organizational member, you are eligible for a 10% discount on the total. There are a few additional caveats that I just want to note about these subscriptions. First, it is up to you whether the group covers the full cost of the subscription or shares those costs out among members. That's something you can decide how you want to handle that. We process the group as one subscription from our end. The group subscription does not have to include the same libraries every year. So this is an annual thing. So you could decide you're getting a subscription for 10 libraries within your group. And then next year when you renew, it changes to 10 different libraries. That's something we can facilitate annually, not within the year, but with the annual subscription. And as I mentioned, PLA state library accounts already have been set up with this free level of access for groups. Those first two features described, but those free state accounts do not include the other subscriber features, the data dashboards and custom peer groups and so on. So those are still require subscription access. So for group administrators, as I mentioned, you get this special type of account that has some additional features. Those include a dashboard to track member libraries' participation in our annual surveys. So an example taken a screenshot from the PLA group dashboard is shown on the screen here. So you can see at the time this was taken, the group had 93 libraries and a 15% response rate for the survey at the time. Across the top in the menu, you can see the other features for these group accounts, including the ability to manage library information. So you can see the contact details for your member libraries. You can view and edit member libraries' responses to the annual surveys through the Manage Surveys function. And you can also access all of the benchmark resources like all other benchmark users. And again, this type of account is available for free to state libraries and other groups. As a group user, this is what you would see within the Manage Surveys page. The screenshot at the top shows how you can select a survey and library and then view or edit that library survey's responses. Editing is only possible while the survey is open, the same as for our library users. You can also export responses for the group's member libraries or institutions. I just want to note this access is provided for review purposes. So ACRL and PLA staff do a lot of the hard work of checking and cleaning the data, and the final results are published in the benchmark dashboards for subscribers. PLA also publishes annual reports on the national level results of our surveys on our website. So for library systems or consortia, I think there's a conversation worth having within your group to check with your group members about this how you might use this type of account and kind of come to a collective decision about that. We know it really varies based on the type of group across the country and type of library. So in your circumstances, your group may decide you just want to be able to track who's participating in the annual surveys. In other cases, like we know for some public library system, the system may play a role in reviewing data that's collected, but that's not always done consistently across different types of library groups. So it's really up to you how you want to handle that. If this sounds like something you are interested in, I'm sure there will be some conversations you want to have within your own groups. And you may have additional questions for us as well. When you are ready, if you are interested in setting up this group account, PLA or ACRL staff would need a list of the group members to be included in that account. For subscriptions, we also need a contact and billing details for the group administrator. And we can go from there and get you set up to use a group account within Benchmark. So again, this is kind of a quick overview. We appreciate you all being here today, and we will use the remaining time to ask questions or to answer your questions. And if you have any further questions after today, please don't hesitate to send us an email. It's acrlbenchmark@ala.org for questions related to academic library access to Benchmark, and plabenchmark@ala.org for questions about public library access. So we are always happy to hear from you and to work with you to figure out how we can better support your libraries. So thank you all for being here today, and I will stop sharing my screen and we can answer any additional questions that have come up in the chat.
There were not any new questions in the chat, so we should give folks time to ask their questions.
Maybe no questions is good news. I don't know. Well, we can wait a minute, but Brian did put in our email addresses for Benchmark, and we shared the email addresses for Project Outcome earlier. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions or if anything wasn't clear today. We're always happy to work with you and answer your questions. So we appreciate those of you who did take the time to be here with us today, and hope we will be hearing from many of you in the future.